Today, let's talk about why saying I'm sorry might not be a great idea. Hello, frictionless families. Today I'd like to talk about the difference between saying I'm sorry and please forgive me. I'm not saying that it's never appropriate to say I'm sorry, because sometimes it is. You're doing the dishes and you bump into each other and say, oh, sorry. What I'm talking about is when there's something big and somebody's feelings have been hurt, or there was clearly something that was done that shouldn't have been done. When you say I'm sorry, there's no actual admission of guilt. We've all heard politicians say stuff like this. Oh, I'm sorry if any of my actions have offended anyone. Right? That's not an apology for anything. And in fact, they could very well think that they've done absolutely nothing wrong and that the whole world is too insensitive, even though they lied to Congress. The second thing about saying I'm sorry is it doesn't do anything to cleanse the person that was actually offended. It doesn't validate that what they did or that what you did was actually wrong. It only says that you have a particular feeling about it, and it just might be that your feeling of being sorry is simply because you were caught, and there's going to be some consequences, or you know that you hurt their feelings. When you say, would you please forgive me, that is a whole different level. What it does is it actually names the specific thing that you did that was wrong, and it acknowledges that you are actually guilty of having done something. In a way, it's manning up, I did this, and what I did was not right. And so this is how you ask for forgiveness, and I learned this a long time ago, and it has made a big difference in my family, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But here, this is the technique. To say that you're truly sorry and to ask forgiveness for something is, first off, you name exactly what it was. And I'll use an example of me losing my temper with one of my kids and speaking harshly. I would say, hey, I just spoke to you in a way that was not kind. And what I said and the way that I said it wasn't appropriate. I want you to know that I didn't do that right. I am sorry, and will you please forgive me for doing it? And you'll notice what wasn't there is there was no excuse, right? It's not, hey, would you please forgive me? I know that I said this wrong, but you've done this about 1,000,000 times, and it's getting a little bit frustrating, but I wasn't real nice about the way I said it. That's not what we're going for. So to ask for forgiveness in a way that's going to be effective and cleansing for you and for them, you specifically name what it was. You tell them and you show them that you understood and that you thought that it probably hurt them in some way. And then you ask them this to say, finally, and when you can, I'm hoping that you'll forgive me. I have done this with each of my kids on multiple occasions. I've done it with my wife. And I can tell you, I have not enjoyed it at any time. But my kids have never once held it against me. And they have always said, yes, Dad, I'll forgive you. And my wife has never held it against me either. And she has always said, yes, I'm over the hurt, and yes, I will forgive you. But there is an acknowledgement that we have to make that what we did was wrong and that there was no excuse for it, even if it was provoked, because we're always responsible for what we do and the way that we respond. One other thing, I have noticed men seem to struggle with this more than women. I was raised in one of those families where men were rugged individualists, and they actually thought that they ever acknowledged that they did something wrong, that people might notice that they did something wrong. As if not acknowledging it, we didn't notice. Of course we all noticed. What I really would have liked is if my dad had said or spoke to me in a harsh way. I would have really liked it if he says, Michael, hey, I'm sorry, the way I spoke to you, that wasn't appropriate. Will you please forgive me? That would have not made me think less of my dad. That would have made me think higher of my dad. And he would have earned respect and a greater level of love than I'd had before him for the fact that he was willing to admit it. So dads, if that's you and you struggle with it, I can promise you, if you ask for forgiveness the right way, tell them that what you did was wrong, label it, don't make any excuses and say, will you please forgive me for what I did? That's going to improve your family. It's going to improve your marriage, and it's going to improve the relationship that you have with your kids. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope that this helps you and your family be a little bit frictionless.